All right, November numbers are in and another very slow month in Atlanta real estate. But as we look to the horizon, there are some signs that things are improving and some signs that show that real estate crash is not going to happen. This is Steve with the Malone Realty Group at EXP in Atlanta. All right, so we do this like first or second day of the month. Every month we get the stats in from the FMLS and from Showing Time talking about what happened in the month previous. So this is kind of your first look. So a lot of times when you see what happened, when the news talks about what's going on, trend-wise, things like that, they're looking at data that's a couple months old. All right, this is fresh. This just came out. So we're looking at this stuff to talk about what's going on in the Atlanta market, what I think it means for the Atlanta market. So first we take a look at the snapshot. Then I give you my interpretation of what does it mean to give you a little sneak preview of what I think it means. And we talk about this in the video. We're in a seller's market because we have such low inventory. But the buyers are really in control of this market. The buyers are very picky. There's not a whole lot out there, so they can kind of flex a little bit. All right, they can get a good deal right now. But what we're finding right now is a lot of the sellers are just not playing along. And if they can't get what they want, they're going to pull their house or they're not going to go on the market. Part of it is they don't want to give away the equity that they built up, number one. Number two, they feel like they're in a house, a lot of them, and this is what we're hearing from people. A lot of people are in a house right now where they've got 3% interest rate, and they don't want to sell their house, spend bukus of money on another house that's going to have a 6% interest rate or 7% interest rate. They don't want to do that. So that's where we are right now. Yes, the buyers are calling the shots. There's a lot less buyers now than there were, but the sellers aren't playing along. And that combination is the reason why I'm not expecting a real estate crash. But let's take a look at the numbers, and then we'll talk about what happens next. So let's do a deep dive into the numbers coming out of November into December. First, want to set the stage for why it was, or from a buyer's perspective, why this is such a unique buyer's market. But then I want to talk about why it is that this is nowhere near a crashing of the market, and why, even though the buyers are in control right now, still technically a seller's market when you look at the numbers. We'll break all that down. First, let's talk about from the buyer's perspective, what has happened over the last month. To the numbers we go. Sales price. As you can see, we're actually down a little bit. Average sales price 462 and change here in the Atlanta area. For a couple of months, it was pretty flat. This is a drop. November was a noticeably quieter month. We topped out somewhere around 520 back in June. So the number that we're at right now is the lowest number that we saw since, we'll say, March of 2022. So that's when everything was super crazy. Everything kind of peaked in June and completely fell apart, and now we're back down to where we were. So we see all that to say things are definitely noticeably slower. And when you look at this, it's different for each of the different price ranges. Homes that are 600,000 or more are slower to sell. Homes that are 350 to 600 are a little bit faster, but they're still slower. Anything between 2 and 350, still getting a lot of homes that there's multiple offers. I have 3 buyers right now that are under contract, and all 3 of them, they're in that 300,000 range, and they all 3 were in a multiple offer situation. So we had to, even though the market slowed down considerably, we still had 3 multiple offer situations. So go figure. So I say all that to say, yes, it has slowed down. It's not crashed completely through the floor, but it's pretty darn slow. Next thing I want to look at is pending sales. These numbers are pretty interesting. Pending sales, these are the sales that are in the machine now to close in December, 2,853 pending sales. That's a pretty low number. Looking back over the last 3 years, it's easily the lowest number in the last 3 years. And this is looking back to 2009, so this is 13 years worth of data. We're below 3,000. You got to go all the way back to, I believe, December of 2010. That is 12 years ago to have a month that's as slow as it was in November that just passed. So, that being said, today is the 2nd that we're recording this. They could add a few more homes that went under contract. It's not going to be a big jump in the number of homes. The trend is there. You see this big drop. In July, it was at 54.44, went up a little in August, and now we've had this major drop. So I say that to say, I think December is probably going to be very similar to November, and then we're going to go up from there. We'll talk about that more in a minute. First, we're looking at stats. So stats, pending sales, lowest pending sales number for a month since 2010. Closed sales, these are the ones actually closed in November. Again, we may not have all the numbers from this. This may end up being over 3,000, but barely. It's 2,987 right now, but if that 2,987 holds, that's the lowest number since January of 2011, February 2011. Okay, so we're sitting at 2,987. So it's that same time frame, the winter of 2010 into 2011. So that was right in the middle of all the craziness coming out of the big 08-09 crash. Things were starting to come back online, but it was still very slow. All right, so this is very slow. We had some very slow things going on in November, and it's been that way for the last several months. Also want to look at the days on market. On average, days on market were up to 31. So it takes 31 days to go and get under contract. Okay, that's the highest number it's been since March of 2021. So it's been a year and a half since it's been that high. You see back here, they were ranging anywhere between 40 and 60 days, up and down, depending on what time of year it was. Not unusual. And even during those, these are all healthy markets back here. So the number that we're at right now is below where it was when it was a healthy market. So if it was way above that, then we're getting into unhealthy markets territory. But 31, it does noticeably higher than it's been. Let's see, the other one we want to look at, percentage of list price on average. That's gone down. We were all the way up here on average in May. We're at 103.4%. And last month we were at 98.2%. Okay, so we looked at closed sales, days on the market, percentage loss, and price per square foot is another one to look at. On average, we topped out back in April, May, June, 216-ish, and now it's down to 204-ish. Now 201 in November, which is the lowest number since February. So basically, we had that big ridge that happened in the middle part of the year, like April, May, June, and then everything just kind of collapsed from there. But as you can see, we're still way up here, still way above where we were. So what does that say about where we are buying-wise? Where we are buying-wise is things have slowed considerably. Buyers are really in control of this market right now. But I am not going to go as far as to say it's a buyer's market. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that the market's getting ready to crash. Because when you go back to 08-09, what we saw was an amazing amount of homes on the market and not a lot of buyers. Okay, what do we have now? Not a lot of buyers, but the number of homes on the market is not high. Let's take a look at that. So from the listing perspective, take a look at first the new listings that were added last month. Only 4718 were added last month. When you go back, is it here? That's below that one, or above that, below that one, December of 2017. It's been 5 years since we've had a month where we've had that few homes added to the market. That includes the pandemic years, okay? It's been a while since we've had a month this slow as far as adding new homes. And you can see it's been going down last couple months. When you add to that, let's see, the homes for sale. So this takes into account what's been added, what's been sold, what's been taken off the market, all that stuff. Homes for sale, we're right here, 12,690, a little lower than we were. First, I want to look at it from the 3-year perspective. You can see we're higher than we were back in the spring of 2021, 2022, when it was super crazy. We're back here to where it was during the beginning of the pandemic, okay? And then we're going to look at it from the about 12-year perspective. You got to come back all the way back to here, back to 2010-ish. You had about 40,000-ish homes on the market back then. In that year of 2010, that's a lot of homes. We've got less than a third of that right now. As far as how many buyers are out there, I mean, it's hard to quantify the number of buyers that are out there. But when you look at this month's supply, again, we're going to look at this 3-year perspective first. Month supply, we're at 2.3. We talk about this number all the time. For those who are not familiar, month supply. If we added no more homes, we're not taking any more homes right now. All the homes that are on the market are on the market. And we sell all the homes on the market at the rate that we're selling them. How long would it take to sell all those houses? It would take 2.3 months right now. Okay. Remember back in January, February, the number was at 1, which is crazy. And then it's been going up steadily throughout the year. Now we're at 2.3. In history, what we see is anything that's under, let's say 5 is a seller's market, under 3 is a strong seller's market, under 2 is like a crazy seller's market. So we're pretty close to a quote crazy seller's market. It doesn't feel like that right now because the buyers are in control. But because of this number right here, that 2.3 that you see in November of 2022, which is the same as it was in October, it's not going up. If that number, and let's take a look at the max. We're going to go back to 2010. That's the farthest one goes back. In April, May, July, August, we were at 10.6 on average in Atlanta. 10 months of inventory. That is a very, very strong buyer's market. If you had a magic spaceship or DeLorean that could go back in time, you should go back to August of 2010 and go buy a house and sit on it for the last 12 years and sell it this past April. If you had a time machine, that would be what you should do. You probably don't have a time machine. I don't either. But that being said, that was probably the best time to buy a house because you were in a situation where you had so few buyers and a whole bunch of houses. Then things started to solidify. That number came down. About 2013, it's like, all right, look at this. Holy cow, we are in a seller's market because a couple things happened. Number one, some of the homes that were on, a lot of them were foreclosures, short sales, things like that. They got wiped off the board because people bought them. Things solidified in the economy, and a lot of the new home builders were out of business. They weren't doing a whole lot. 09, 2010, 2011, really through probably 14, 15, they weren't doing a whole lot with new construction because they didn't have the money. They were out of business. So there was not a whole lot of new construction in that time period. So anything that was existing, that was it. That was the whole ball game. So that's why you had such a strong seller's market, and it stayed that way for several years. And reality is, if that number's running in this neighborhood of like 3 to 4, that's a spot where people can still get a good number on their house. Home prices are going to appreciate. It's not going to be crazy. Buyers can still get inspections done, get things fixed on a house that they're buying, things like that. But then, as you got 2017, 2018, the numbers have just been steadily going, very slowly going down. And then once the pandemic hit, that's when it went way down. We'll take another look at the last 3-year number. So, going into the pandemic right about here was at 2.8. So even going into the pandemic, that number was pretty low at 2.8, and then just the bottom fell out. We were around 1 to 1.3 for a while. Now we're at 2.3. So I say all that to say this. Yes, there's few buyers. Yes, they're driving the boat right now. They're in control of the market, but it's a seller's market. Because there's so few homes on the market and supply and demand is there. So supply and demand. The demand is down. Supply is kind of holding steady, if not going down a little bit. So if the demand was way down and the supply was way up, that's where you have a problem. That's where you worry about a major crash in the market. What's going to happen in 2023? We'll talk about that in just a second. But this is your snapshot of what's going on right now, coming out of November into December, and the trends that you're seeing. So the trends are that slowdown in the buyer's market continues. But now what we're seeing is the sellers, and what we're seeing with a lot of the sellers in the market, they're saying, if I can't sell my house, I'm not going to sell my house and giving it away. So a lot of sellers are pulling their house. They're not going on the market until things solidify. That little bit right there is what's going to keep this market from going, from being, kind of a stable market to kind of turning over and crashing and everything like that. So not expecting that here in the Atlanta area. Other parts of the country are different, okay? Spots like California, New York, people are trying to escape certain climates, certain tax issues, whatever. I'm not getting political here. I'm just saying that people are leaving those places and they're coming here, okay? So I don't expect us to be in a position where people are trying to leave North Georgia. Ain't nobody leaving Atlanta. Everybody loves Atlanta. So that's where we were coming out of November. Big question. What happens next? So let's talk about what does happen next. Well, what happens next is, as we look to the horizon, look what's going to happen. we've got to watch the interest rates because I really do think that the interest rates are going to be the catalyst that brings the buyers back in. I've been saying this, I've been a broken record about this for the last couple months. The buyers did not just vanish and go away. They're not, they didn't get shot into outer space or anything or decide they're not going to buy a house. They still want to buy a house. A lot of these millennials want to buy a house. A lot of people have been on the sidelines waiting. They were either priced out or the interest rates got them or they got tired of fighting with people, whatever it is. So a lot of people are on the sidelines right now. They have not evaporated. They're on the sidelines. They're waiting. The interest rates hit 6% back in June. And that was a catalyst that really shut down the market. The market was already starting to trend downwards end of April, beginning part of June. It was starting to slow down, but once the rates hit 6%, I mean, seriously, within 1 week, it completely threw the market. So we've been waiting to see. There's going to be an interest rate on the way down where if we hit that interest rate, the buyers are going to jump back in. Now, the interest rates did have a drop during, I do believe it was August. We saw them going down into the fives, close to 4 for a moment. And it kind of looked like the buyers were going to jump back in time for the fall market. Right when the fall market was going to get ready to start rolling, like around Labor Day, interest rates hit 7, and that was it. We were done for the fall and done for the winter. But what has happened since? What's happened since is the Feds have seen a lot of data, CPI that we talk about a lot, the Consumer Price Index, that has been trending downwards. That is a measurement that they use to figure out how inflation is doing. The lower that number, the better inflation is doing as far as coming down. Less people are spending on their stuff, things like that. So as the CPI comes down, that is leading the Feds to start thinking, all right, if the CPI is coming down, we may be getting to the point where we're kind of over the top of inflation mountain. Talk about that a lot too. Over the top of the mountain. There's a long way down. Okay, this does not mean inflation's over. It's going to take some time to clear the deck of all going on. Are we past the worst of it? I think that we are. The Feds think that we are. A lot of economists think that we are right now. When you look at what's going to happen over the next couple of months, as far as what the CPI is going to be doing, those numbers, what's expected, things like that. So I say all that to say, mortgage rates follow inflation. If inflation looks like it's coming back down, the mortgage rates are likely going to come back down too. Okay, and with the Feds, kind of what they see, they're expected to do a half point interest rate hike in December, which normally is a lot, but this year they've done several 3/4 point hikes. So a half point hike is what is expected, and it's obviously better. But we don't need to just watch what they do. We have to watch what they say, because the chairman, Powell, when he talks, the markets listen, and how he talks and what he says. And yesterday what he said was, it really looks like now we're at the point where we can start thinking about maybe pulling back on some of these rate hikes. Things maybe starting to improve a little bit. That sent the markets and the interest rates, or that sent the markets up, the interest rates down yesterday. So we got about a third of a point drop yesterday. When the CPI comes out beginning part of December, and as we look at it, the Black Friday sales, some of the data shows that the Black Friday sales did not come in the way that people thought. People were not hitting their marks, which from an economic standpoint is not a good thing. It means the economy is starting to slow down. But from an inflation standpoint, that's a good thing. The Feds are trying to, unfortunately, break the economy, so to speak, or slow the economy, put the brakes on it to pull it back. And once that happens, because of the inflation is just like runaway inflation right now, once the economy starts pulling back a little bit, then you're starting to think to yourself, all right, we've got things more under control. We're getting back to where we're supposed to be. That's going to bring the interest rates down. Some of the people look at the mortgage rates. They think we might be in the 5s, maybe sometime in Q1. I've seen one, Harry Habib, who is one of the more renowned mortgage rate guys in the country. He's talking about, could we be in the upper 4s by the time we get into spring? We'll have to be watching. We'll see how quickly this happens. Either way, I think we're going to be in the 5s. Again, I'm not a lender, so don't take this as gospel. I'm not quoting you anything. Okay, I'm just shooting from the hip, so don't sue me if I'm wrong. Okay, I've been wrong plenty this year, so it's just another video where I was wrong. Um, but what's going to happen is we're going to have to watch, because if those numbers get down to close to low fives, upper fours, as that coincides with the start of the spring market, it could be a rock and roll spring market. The buyers come back, sellers come back, and we get back to normal real estate. The last couple of months have not been normal. It has been very quiet. Like to get back to just normal real estate. We'll see how it all plays out. We're going to be watching it through this month. As this is typically, December is usually a quiet month in real estate as far as pendings, things like that, in this quieter months of the year. So this is what we call this phone call month, where we're just calling everybody and their brother and their mother to talk about real estate. So if you have questions about what all of this means, if you're either selling or buying, that's what we're doing. Give us a call, 470-233-4409. Steve, take care. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching the video today. If you want more information on what's going on in the real estate market, take a look at some of these videos over here that we've posted, keeping up with what buying, selling, things that are going on in the North Georgia market. But if you want to keep up with everything that we post to our YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel down there, bottom right. That way you won't miss out on anything.